The people who carry the greatest responsibilities are often the ones nobody notices at first. On a quiet morning in Brookdale, a woman walked through the city carrying a story that almost no one knew. She did not wear a military uniform. She did not display her rank. She did not introduce herself with the title she had earned through years of dedication and service. To everyone passing by, she appeared to be an ordinary person beginning another ordinary day. Her name was Evelyn Brooks, but behind her calm expression was a lifetime of commitment, discipline, and sacrifice. For years, Evelyn had served in the United States military. Her journey was shaped by early mornings, difficult decisions, and the responsibility of protecting something greater than herself. She understood that true service was not about being recognized. It was about doing the right thing even when nobody was watching. That belief became the foundation of everything she did. Evelyn never believed a title made someone more valuable than another person. She believed character came first and recognition came later. Her military career had taught her an important lesson. The strongest people were not always the ones seeking attention. Often, they were the ones quietly carrying responsibilities that others could never see. The military pass she carried represented a chapter of that journey. It was more than a piece of identification. It represented trust, dedication, and years of commitment. It was connected to the organization she served and the responsibilities she had accepted. But Evelyn also knew that the meaning behind the pass was much greater than the information printed on it. A document could confirm a position, but it could never fully explain the person behind it. She carried memories, experiences, and lessons that could not be captured on any card. As Evelyn moved through Brookdale that morning, she had no reason to believe the day would become unforgettable. She was not searching for recognition. She was not expecting anyone to know her background. She simply continued living by the same principles that had guided her for years: patience, respect, and integrity. Across the city, Officer Daniel Mitchell began his shift with the Fairmont Police Department. His uniform represented a different kind of responsibility. While Evelyn carried a hidden history of military service, Daniel carried visible authority that people immediately recognized. The badge on his uniform showed his role in the community. It represented his duty to make decisions, follow procedures, and protect the people around him. Daniel believed experience helped him understand situations quickly. Over the years, he had learned to observe details and make judgments based on the information available. But sometimes, the most important details are the ones that remain unseen. Daniel did not know the woman he would soon encounter carried years of military service behind her quiet presence. Evelyn did not know that a simple moment would soon challenge the way others viewed her. Neither of them understood that a small encounter in Brookdale would reveal a powerful truth. The person standing in front of you may be carrying a story far greater than anything you can see. Officer Daniel Mitchell had always believed that experience was built through observation. Every day he wore the uniform, he reminded himself that people depended on him to make careful decisions. The badge on his chest represented responsibility, and he respected the trust that came with it. In Brookdale, many people recognized him before they ever knew his name. They saw the uniform, the authority, and the role he represented. To Daniel, that visibility was part of the responsibility he carried. He understood that every interaction mattered, and he believed his years of service helped him handle situations with confidence. But confidence can sometimes create an unexpected challenge. When someone spends years learning to recognize certain patterns, it can become easy to believe that the first impression is the complete story. Daniel was not a person who ignored responsibility. He cared about his work and the people around him. But like anyone, he only had access to the information available in front of him. He could see what was visible. He could not see what remained hidden. Across the city, Evelyn Brooks continued her day with the same quiet discipline that had guided her for years. She had learned through military service that every person deserved to be treated with respect before their background was known. She had worked with people from different communities, different experiences, and different perspectives. Those years taught her that a person could never be fully understood from a single moment. A stranger might be carrying a responsibility nobody could imagine. A quiet person might have faced challenges that shaped incredible strength. Evelyn carried that understanding everywhere she went. She did not expect special treatment because of her military service. She did not believe her achievements made her more important than anyone else. In her mind, respect was not something earned only after people discovered a title. Respect was something every person deserved from the beginning. That difference between Evelyn and Daniel was not about who cared more about responsibility. Both believed they were doing what was expected of them. The difference was that Daniel's authority was immediately visible, while Evelyn's dedication remained unseen. One person carried a badge that explained his role. The other carried years of service that were hidden behind a normal appearance. As the day continued, neither of them knew that their paths were moving closer together. Daniel believed he understood the world through careful observation. Evelyn understood that the world often missed important details. Their upcoming encounter would bring those two perspectives together. It would become a reminder that every person has a story beyond what others can immediately recognize. Sometimes the most meaningful lessons begin when someone realizes that what they see is only one small piece of the truth. For years, Evelyn Brooks had carried the meaning behind her military service without needing anyone else to recognize it. The military pass in her possession was a small item, but the story connected to it was much larger. It represented years of commitment, countless hours of preparation, and the trust placed in her by the organization she served. To someone who did not understand its significance, it might have appeared to be just another identification card. But to Evelyn, it represented a journey built on responsibility and dedication. She knew that objects could be replaced, but the experiences behind them could never be erased. The pass was not valuable because of the material it was made from. It was valuable because of what it represented. Evelyn remembered the moments that shaped her career. She remembered the lessons about patience, teamwork, and leadership. She learned that true leaders did not need constant recognition. They showed their character through the choices they made when nobody was watching. Those lessons stayed with her long after she stepped away from her daily military routine. Even in ordinary situations, Evelyn carried the same discipline and respect that guided her during her years of service. She never expected people to know her background immediately. She never introduced herself by listing her achievements. She believed that the way a person treated others revealed more about their character than any title ever could. That belief became one of the strongest parts of who she was. Meanwhile, Officer Daniel Mitchell continued his work in Brookdale, unaware of the story connected to the woman he would soon meet. Daniel had learned throughout his career that details mattered. A small observation could change the way a situation was understood. He believed careful attention helped him serve the community responsibly. But there was one lesson he had not fully experienced yet. Sometimes the most important details are not the ones that can be seen. They are the ones hidden beneath the surface. Evelyn and Daniel represented two different perspectives. Daniel saw the world through visible signs of responsibility. His uniform and badge immediately communicated his role. Evelyn carried a different kind of responsibility, one that was hidden behind her everyday appearance. Her service, her experience, and her dedication were not obvious to strangers, but they were real. As their paths moved closer together, the contrast between what people could see and what they could not became more important. Evelyn understood that misunderstandings could happen when people only knew a small part of someone's story. She had spent years working with others and learned that every individual carried experiences that shaped them. No one could truly understand another person by looking at only one moment. The morning in Brookdale continued like any other, but something unexpected was approaching. A simple interaction would soon challenge assumptions, test patience, and reveal a truth that had been hidden in plain sight. The military pass Evelyn carried was not just a piece of identification. It was a reminder that behind every person is a story waiting to be understood. The afternoon in Brookdale continued with the same calm rhythm that many people had experienced countless times before. Cars moved along familiar streets, businesses welcomed customers, and people continued with their daily responsibilities. For Evelyn Brooks, it was simply another moment outside of her military duties. She carried herself with the same quiet confidence that had guided her for years. She was not looking for attention, and she was not expecting anyone to recognize the significance of the person standing before them. Evelyn had always believed that the strongest proof of character came from actions, not introductions. Across the city, Officer Daniel Mitchell continued his shift with the mindset that every situation deserved careful attention. He had built his career around responsibility and preparation. The badge he wore represented the trust placed in him by the community. It was a visible reminder of his role and the expectations that came with it. Daniel believed that experience helped him understand situations quickly, but he also knew that every moment required patience and awareness. Neither Evelyn nor Daniel expected their paths to cross that day. When they first encountered each other, there was no obvious sign that the moment would become important. They were simply two people with different backgrounds meeting during an ordinary day. Daniel saw a person he did not know. Evelyn saw another interaction where respect and communication mattered. The difference was that Evelyn carried a history that was impossible to see at first glance. She carried years of military service, but she did not lead with that information. She did not believe that revealing her position should be necessary for someone to treat her fairly. To her, respect should exist before anyone discovered a title or achievement. Daniel approached the situation through the information available to him. He looked at what he could observe and tried to understand the circumstances based on his training. He was not aware of the experiences that shaped Evelyn or the responsibilities she had carried throughout her life. He only saw the present moment. This was the challenge of first impressions. People often create conclusions from a small part of a much larger story. They see a person's appearance, their words, or their immediate circumstances, but they do not always see the years of experiences that created the person standing in front of them. Evelyn understood that reality because she had spent years working with people from different backgrounds. She knew that everyone carried something unseen. As their conversation continued, small details began to reveal the difference between assumption and reality. Evelyn remained composed and respectful. She did not try to control the situation by mentioning her military background. She simply allowed her actions to show who she was. Daniel noticed that her confidence and patience came from somewhere deeper than he first understood. There was a calmness that suggested experience, discipline, and self-control. But without knowing the complete story, he could only see a small part of the truth. Neither of them realized that the next moments would bring a discovery that would change the way the entire situation was understood. The military pass Evelyn carried was about to become more than a simple identification item. It was about to reveal a story that had been hidden behind an ordinary appearance all along. The moment in Brookdale continued to develop in a way that revealed the difference between what people assumed and what was actually true. Evelyn Brooks remained calm because she understood something that years of military service had taught her. Not every situation needed an immediate reaction. Sometimes patience created a stronger answer than words ever could. She knew who she was, and she knew the dedication behind the life she had built. She did not need to prove her value by explaining her position. Her character existed long before anyone discovered her accomplishments. The military pass connected to Evelyn's service remained an important part of her identity. It represented trust, responsibility, and years of commitment. It was connected to the organization she served and the promises she made throughout her career. To someone unfamiliar with its meaning, it might appear to be only a small piece of identification. But to Evelyn, it represented a journey that could never be reduced to a simple card. Behind it were experiences, lessons, and responsibilities that shaped the person she became. Evelyn understood that symbols mattered, but she also understood that symbols were not the source of a person's worth. A uniform, a title, or an official document could show one part of a person's story, but it could never reveal everything. The most important qualities were often invisible. They appeared through patience, honesty, and the way someone treated others when there was nothing to gain. Officer Daniel Mitchell continued viewing the situation through the perspective of his responsibility. He believed in doing his job carefully and following the information available to him. His years in law enforcement had taught him to pay attention to details and make decisions based on what he knew. But this moment presented a lesson that experience alone could not always provide. Sometimes the most important information was not immediately available. Sometimes a person's true story existed beyond what could be observed in a brief encounter. Daniel noticed that Evelyn did not respond the way he expected. She remained respectful and composed. She did not attempt to use her background as a way to gain control. She simply continued carrying herself with the same discipline she had always practiced. That quiet confidence created a question in Daniel's mind. There was something about her presence that suggested a deeper story. A person does not develop that level of patience without experience. A person does not carry that kind of calm without having faced responsibility before. Meanwhile, Evelyn understood that moments like this happened often in life. People make decisions quickly because they only see the information directly in front of them. They do not always see the years of effort, the personal sacrifices, or the challenges that shaped another person. She believed the answer was not anger. The answer was understanding. As the situation moved forward, the importance of the military pass became clearer. It was no longer just a document connected to Evelyn's service. It became a reminder that every person carries a story beyond what others can immediately recognize. And soon, the truth behind that story would begin to emerge. The moment that would change the way everyone understood Evelyn Brooks did not arrive with a dramatic announcement. It began quietly, through the simple realization that there was far more to the situation than anyone had first understood. Evelyn remained composed because she had spent years learning that patience was often the strongest response. Her military service had taught her that leadership was not measured by how quickly someone demanded recognition. It was measured by how a person carried themselves when circumstances were uncertain. She continued standing with the same calm confidence that had guided her throughout her career. She knew the truth about her own journey, even if others did not. The military pass connected to Evelyn's service represented years of dedication. It represented the trust placed in her and the responsibilities she had accepted. But Evelyn also understood that the meaning behind it went deeper than the information written on it. It represented the people she had worked alongside, the lessons she had learned, and the commitment she had made to something greater than herself. Losing or questioning that symbol could never erase the person she had become. Officer Daniel Mitchell began to see that there was something different about the woman standing before him. He had entered the situation, believing he understood the details available to him. His training encouraged him to observe carefully and make decisions based on facts. But as the interaction continued, he began to recognize that there were important details he did not know yet. Evelyn's behavior showed a level of confidence that came from experience. She was not trying to create conflict. She was not trying to prove that she was important. She simply remained respectful and allowed the truth to exist without forcing it. That was something Daniel found difficult to ignore. Throughout his career, he had met many different people, but this moment reminded him that every person carried a history that was impossible to see immediately. A person could appear ordinary while carrying years of achievement. A person could speak quietly while holding responsibilities that affected many others. Evelyn represented that reality. As the situation continued, the importance of the military pass became even clearer. It was not valuable because of the material it was made from. It was valuable because of what it represented. It was a connection to a lifetime of service that most people would never know by simply looking at her. Evelyn did not want anyone to respect her only because of her position. She wanted people to understand that respect should exist before a title is revealed. That belief was one of the reasons she remained patient. She knew that moments of misunderstanding could become moments of learning if people were willing to reflect. Somewhere beyond the streets of Brookdale, a person who knew Evelyn's story was about to become aware of what had happened. Someone who understood the years behind her service, the dedication behind her choices, and the character behind her calm presence. General Richard Hayes had spent years recognizing the qualities that made great leaders. He knew that true service was not always loud. Sometimes it was found in people who quietly carried responsibility without asking for recognition. And when the message reached him, he understood that the truth behind Evelyn Brooks could no longer remain unseen. The message reached General Richard Hayes at a moment when he was reviewing reports from across the region. For years, he had learned that leadership was not only about making decisions during important moments. It was also about recognizing the people who carried responsibility quietly every single day. When he heard Evelyn Brooks was involved in a situation where her service was being misunderstood, he immediately understood that the story was not about a simple document. It was about recognizing the person behind that document. General Hayes knew Evelyn's history. He knew the years of preparation, dedication, and commitment that shaped her into the leader she had become. He knew she was not someone who searched for attention or used her position to influence others. Evelyn had always believed that respect was something earned through actions, not demanded through titles. That was one of the reasons General Hayes respected her. He understood that the strongest leaders were often the ones who did not need to announce their importance. They allowed their character to speak for them. As he learned more about what had happened in Brookdale, General Hayes realized that Evelyn's situation represented something much bigger than one interaction. It represented the importance of seeing people beyond first impressions. A person's appearance, clothing, or circumstances in a single moment could never tell the complete story of who they were. Meanwhile, Evelyn remained patient. She did not know that General Hayes had been informed. She did not know that someone who understood her journey was on the way. She simply continued doing what she had always done, staying calm, showing respect, and trusting that the truth would eventually become clear. Officer Daniel Mitchell also began to recognize that there were details he had not considered. The confidence he had carried at the beginning of the interaction was slowly replaced by reflection. He had always believed that responsibility meant paying attention, but this moment reminded him that attention required more than observing what was immediately visible. It required understanding what might be hidden beneath the surface. The arrival of General Hayes changed the atmosphere completely. It was not because he arrived with the purpose of creating fear or showing authority. He arrived because he understood the importance of acknowledging someone who had dedicated years of service. When General Hayes saw Evelyn, he did not see a stranger. He saw a respected officer, a leader, and a person whose commitment represented the values they both believed in. The moment he offered a military salute was not about creating a dramatic display. It was a simple gesture of recognition. It was a reminder that honor does not disappear when someone is not wearing a uniform. It does not disappear when someone is standing in an ordinary place. It remains part of who they are. For everyone watching, the meaning of the moment became clear. The woman who appeared ordinary at first had been carrying a lifetime of service all along. The person who seemed unknown was someone who had earned respect through dedication and commitment. General Hayes's salute was not just a greeting. It was a powerful reminder that true value is often hidden until someone takes the time to understand the full story. The moment General Richard Hayes recognized Evelyn Brooks was not simply a moment of confirmation. It was a moment that revealed a deeper truth about the way people are often judged before their full stories are known. Around them, the atmosphere in Brookdale changed. What had started as an ordinary interaction became a powerful reminder that appearances only show one small part of a person's identity. Evelyn remained the same person she had always been. The recognition did not change her confidence, because her confidence had never come from other people's approval. It came from knowing the values she carried and the years of service behind her. She had never needed a title to prove her worth. The title only explained a part of the journey she had already completed. General Hayes understood that better than most people. Throughout his own career, he had met countless individuals who represented the strongest qualities of leadership without seeking attention. Evelyn was one of those people. Her ability to remain respectful during a difficult moment showed the same discipline and patience she had demonstrated throughout her military service. She did not allow misunderstanding to change the person she chose to be. Officer Daniel Mitchell watched everything unfold with a different perspective than before. The same details that once seemed complete now appeared incomplete. He realized that the information available at first was only a small piece of a much larger story. He had focused on what he could immediately see, but he had not considered what might exist beyond that first impression. It was a lesson that stayed with him because it challenged something many people experience in everyday life. People often make quick judgments based on limited information. They see a moment, but they do not see the years that created that moment. They see an individual, but they do not see the experiences, challenges, and responsibilities that shaped that person. Evelyn's story reminded everyone that a person's value does not begin when others finally recognize it. It exists long before that recognition arrives. The military past connected to her service was important, but it was never the source of her honor. The honor came from the choices she made, the responsibilities she accepted, and the commitment she carried through every chapter of her life. General Hayes's gesture represented respect, but it also represented something larger. It showed that true leadership recognizes the people behind the positions they hold. It understands that every uniform, every document, and every title represents a human being with a unique story. As the day continued, Evelyn did not leave feeling victorious over anyone. She left with the same humility she had shown from the beginning. She knew moments like this were not about proving one person right and another person wrong. They were about creating understanding. Daniel also left with a new perspective. He understood that responsibility was not only about enforcing rules or following procedures. It was also about listening, learning, and recognizing the humanity of every person he encountered. In the end, the most important lesson was not about a military pass or a single interaction. It was about seeing people completely before deciding who they are. Because behind every person is a story that deserves to be understood. The streets of Brookdale returned to their usual rhythm after the unexpected moment that brought hidden truths into the open. People continued with their daily lives, but for those who witnessed what happened, the lesson remained long after the moment had passed. It was not a lesson about one person having more power than another. It was a lesson about understanding the stories people carry and the importance of recognizing value before knowing someone's title. Evelyn Brooks continued forward with the same quiet confidence she had shown from the beginning. The recognition from General Richard Hayes did not change her because she had never depended on recognition to define who she was. She already knew the meaning behind her service. She knew the sacrifices, the responsibilities, and the commitment that shaped her journey. The respect she received was meaningful, but it was not what created her honor. Her honor existed because of the choices she made every day. Throughout her career, Evelyn had learned that leadership was not about being noticed. It was about remaining committed even when nobody was watching. That lesson stayed with her beyond military service and guided the way she interacted with everyone around her. She believed that every person deserved dignity, whether they were wearing a uniform, carrying a badge, or simply walking through an ordinary day. Officer Daniel Mitchell also carried the memory of that moment with him. He thought about how easily a person could be misunderstood when only a small part of their story was visible. His experience in law enforcement had taught him the importance of awareness, but Evelyn's situation taught him another important lesson. Awareness was not only about observing details. It was also about recognizing that some details could not be seen immediately. People often carry achievements, struggles, and responsibilities that remain invisible to others. Daniel understood that his role required more than making decisions. It required humility, patience, and the willingness to continue learning. General Richard Hayes returned to his responsibilities knowing that the moment represented something meaningful. His salute was not remembered because of the action itself. It was remembered because of what it represented. It showed appreciation for dedication, respect for service, and recognition of a person who had quietly earned every bit of honor she received. The story of Evelyn Brooks became a reminder that identity is never limited to what others can see at first glance. A person is not defined by a single moment, a single document, or a single assumption. Behind every individual is a collection of experiences that shape who they are. Sometimes the world notices those experiences immediately. Other times, it takes a moment of truth to reveal them. But the value was always there. Evelyn's journey showed that dignity does not come from how others choose to see someone. It comes from the character a person builds through their actions. And Daniel's journey showed that growth begins when someone is willing to look beyond the surface. In the end, the greatest recognition was not the salute itself. It was the understanding that followed. Because true respect is not created when someone discovers a person's importance. True respect begins when people choose to recognize the humanity that was there all along.